The phone call that destroyed my marriage came at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, and I heard every goddamn word of it. I was hunched over my drafting table in our home office, sketching elevation details for the Morrison Commercial Complex, a 40-story testament to my architectural career that would either make or break Turner Design Studio. The house was supposed to be quiet. Sophia had claimed she was going to bed early, complaining about a headache from her marketing job at Pinnacle Communications. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. But there she was, 3 rooms away, her voice carrying through our craftsman-style home like poison through water. God, you should see him right now. Sophia's laugh was sharp, cutting. Hunched over those stupid drawings like some obsessed little boy. My friends think he's pathetic. I set down my pencil. 22 years of architectural training had taught me to pay attention to structural weaknesses, and I was hearing the foundation of my life crack in real time. No, seriously, Liam, she continued. He has no idea how ridiculous he looks, always so serious about his important work. I told Maya yesterday that living with him is like being married to a calculator. Liam. I knew that name. Liam Becker, the finance hotshot from her office building. The guy with the red Porsche who'd been at our last 3 dinner parties, always finding excuses to touch my wife's arm, always laughing too loud at her jokes. Tomorrow's the Hartwell Foundation Gala. Sophia's voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. Do me a favor and don't come near me, all right? I can't have my colleagues seeing me with, well, you know how Daniel gets at these things, all awkward small talk and boring architecture stories. Try not to embarrass me more than usual. The pencil snapped in my hand. I sat there in the blue glow of my desk lamp, surrounded by blueprints and technical drawings, listening to my wife of 8 years discuss me like I was a stray dog she'd found in her yard. The Morrison Complex elevations stared back at me, clean lines, perfect proportions, everything in its proper place. Unlike my life, apparently. I know, Sophia laughed again. But what can I do? Daniel's so predictable. He thinks because he designs pretty buildings that makes him interesting. Meanwhile, you're out there making real money, driving that gorgeous car, actually living your life. I stood up slowly, my architect's mind already working, already calculating angles and stress points. Because here's what most people don't understand about architects. We're not just artists. We're engineers. We solve problems. We build things that last, and sometimes we tear things down. The next morning, Sophia breezed into the kitchen wearing her black cocktail dress, the one I'd bought her for our anniversary last year. She looked stunning, as always. Blonde hair perfectly styled, makeup flawless, that smile that had convinced me to propose on a beach in Maine 8 years ago. Morning, honey, she said, not looking up from her phone. Don't forget the gala tonight. Try to wear the navy suit, okay? And maybe don't talk about work so much. People's eyes glaze over when you start explaining load-bearing structures. Right, I said, pouring coffee. Wouldn't want to bore anyone with my pathetic little job. She glanced up, frowning. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. Just thinking about structural integrity. Well, think about it quietly. I've got a conference call with the Peterson account in 20 minutes. After she left, I sat in our kitchen, the kitchen I'd designed myself, with custom cabinets and a breakfast nook that caught the morning light just right. And I made a decision. Not a rash, emotional decision. A calculated architectural decision. I was going to find out exactly how deep this betrayal went, and then I was going to do something about it. My assistant Alex arrived at Turner Design Studio around 9, carrying 2 cups of coffee and wearing his usual uniform of jeans and a vintage band t-shirt. At 28, Alex Chen was everything I wasn't. Tech-savvy, socially confident, and completely unimpressed by anyone over 30. You look like hell, boss, he said, setting a cup on my desk. Rough night with the Morrison drawings? Something like that. I pulled up the building schematics on my computer. Alex, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest. Shoot. Do you think I'm boring? Alex nearly choked on his coffee. What? Where's this coming from? Just answer the question. He studied me for a moment, his expression growing serious. Daniel, you're one of the smartest people I know. You design buildings that make people stop and stare. You remember everyone's birthday. You pay me more than you probably should, and you once spent 3 hours helping me debug my computer because you're too nice to tell me to figure it out myself. That's not what I asked. Okay, fine. Sometimes you get really intense about things like proper concrete curing times and seismic load calculations. But boring? No way. Anyone who thinks that doesn't know you very well. I nodded, feeling something cold and determined settling in my chest. Thanks. That's what I needed to hear. Why? What's going on? Nothing yet. But Alex, I might need some help with a project. Something off the books. His eyes lit up with curiosity. What kind of project? The kind that requires very careful planning. That afternoon, I did something I'd never done in 8 years of marriage. I went through Sophia's things, not like a jealous husband tearing apart drawers and closets, like an architect conducting a structural survey, methodical and thorough. I started with her laptop, still open on the kitchen counter where she'd left it after her conference call. The email was right there in her recently sent folder, like she wanted me to find it. Liam, can't wait for tonight. Daniel will be there, but don't worry. He'll spend the whole evening talking to other boring architect types. We can slip away after the auction. I told him I might be late coming home because of work obligations. He bought it completely. See you at 8. S. My hands were remarkably steady as I screenshot the email and forwarded it to my personal account. Then I checked her text messages. The conversation thread with Liam went back 3 months. 3 months of can't stop thinking about you, and when can we be alone again, and Daniel has no idea how lucky he is. Too bad he's too boring to appreciate it. But it was the thread with her best friend Maya that really twisted the knife. Maya, you should see how pathetic Daniel looked at dinner last night, trying so hard to be charming while Liam was right there. I actually felt embarrassed for him. LOL, does he suspect anything? Please. Daniel couldn't find a clue if it was blueprinted and labeled. He's too busy with his little building projects to notice what's happening in the real world. You're terrible, but also hilarious. Are you going to leave him? Eventually, once I figure out how to get the house. He designed it himself, so it's worth a fortune. Plus, his business is finally taking off. Timing is everything. I sat back in my chair, staring at the phone screen. The house. My house. The house I'd spent 2 years designing, with custom everything and details that most people would never notice, but that made it perfect. She was planning to take it from me. That's when I heard Mrs. Griggs calling from the backyard. Eleanor Griggs was 73 years old, lived in the house behind ours, and had made a career out of knowing everyone else's business. Most neighbors found her annoying. I was starting to think she might be useful. Daniel, dear, she called over the fence, could you help me with something? I walked outside, Sophia's phone still in my hand. Of course, Mrs. Griggs. What do you need? Well, it's a bit awkward, she said, wringing her hands, but I feel like I should mention, I've been seeing a red sports car in your driveway quite a bit lately, when you're not home. I hope I'm sure it's perfectly innocent. A red sports car? Yes, a Porsche, I think. Very flashy. The driver is a handsome young man, always very well dressed. He was here yesterday afternoon, actually. Stayed for about 2 hours. Yesterday afternoon, when I was at the Morrison site meeting, when Sophia said she was working from home with a migraine. Mrs. Griggs, I said carefully, how long has this been going on? Oh, months now. I didn't want to say anything, but, well, a woman knows these things, doesn't she? I looked at this 73-year-old woman who just handed me the final piece of evidence I needed, and I smiled. Mrs. Griggs, you're absolutely right. A woman does know these things. Thank you for telling me. Of course, dear. I hope everything is all right. It will be. Back inside, I forwarded the text thread to myself and deleted the evidence from Sophia's sent folder. Then I called Alex. I need you to come over, I said. Bring your laptop and that portable printer you're always bragging about. Right now? Right now. And Alex, remember when you said I pay you more than I probably should? Yeah? You're about to earn every penny. When Alex arrived 20 minutes later, I had everything laid out on the dining room table like architectural plans, screenshots, printed emails, a timeline I'd constructed showing every lie Sophia had told me over the past 3 months. Holy shit, Alex breathed, looking at the evidence. Boss, I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry. Be useful. I need you to help me make copies of everything, multiple copies, and I need you to help me figure out how to use this information. What are you thinking? I looked around the dining room, the room where Sophia and I had hosted dozens of dinner parties, where she'd charmed my clients and colleagues, where she'd built her reputation as the perfect architect's wife while planning to destroy me behind my back. I'm thinking, I said slowly, that it's time to do some demolition work. The Hartwell Foundation Gala was being held at the Grand Meridian Hotel downtown, in the ballroom I'd helped design during my early days at Morrison & Associates. I knew every sightline in that room, every acoustic sweet spot, every place where conversations could be overheard. I arrived at 8:15, fashionably late, wearing the navy suit Sophia had requested. She was already there, stunning in her black dress, holding court near the bar with a group that included Maya, several colleagues from Pinnacle Communications, and Liam Becker. Liam looked exactly like what he was, a finance bro who spent too much on clothes and hair products. Tall, artificially tan, with the kind of aggressive confidence that comes from making money without actually creating anything. He was wearing a watch that probably cost more than most people's cars. I watched them for a moment from across the room. Sophia was animated, laughing, touching Liam's arm in that casual way that looked innocent to anyone who didn't know what I knew. Maya was hanging on every word, clearly in on the joke. The colleagues were eating it up, charmed by my wife's vivacious personality. None of them noticed me approaching until I was right behind Sophia. Sorry I'm late, I said, putting my hand on her shoulder. Traffic was murder. She spun around, and for just a moment, I saw panic flash across her face before she recovered. Daniel, there you are. I was just telling everyone about the Morrison project. Were you? I smiled at the group. How much did you tell them? About the structural challenges, the innovative use of cross-laminated timber, the way we solved the wind load problem on the upper floors? I saw eyes starting to glaze over, exactly like Sophia had predicted they would. Well, she laughed nervously, I don't know all the technical details. No, of course not. That's my job, isn't it? The boring technical stuff. I looked directly at Liam. What do you do, Liam? Sophia's mentioned you before. Finance, he said, straightening his tie. Investment management, primarily commercial real estate. Interesting. So you'd understand the economics of a project like Morrison, the risk assessment, the projected returns, the way a single structural failure can bring down an entire investment. Something shifted in his expression. Sure. Risk management is crucial. Exactly. You have to know where the weak points are, the places where everything might collapse if you're not careful. I smiled wider. I imagine betrayal of trust is a major factor in your line of work. Sophia's grip tightened on her wine glass. Daniel, maybe we should... Should what? Should mingle? You're right. I looked around the group. Enjoy your evening, everyone. I'm sure it will be... memorable. I walked away, leaving them standing there, and I could feel Sophia's eyes burning into my back. Phase 1 was complete. Now for Phase 2. I spent the next hour working the room, talking to clients, colleagues, and potential investors. But I was also watching, waiting. At 10:30, I saw Sophia lean close to Liam and whisper something. He nodded. She turned to Maya and said something that made her friend laugh and wave her away. They were making their move. I followed at a distance as they headed for the elevator bank. The Grand Meridian had 37 floors, and I knew from the building plans that floors 15 through 20 were currently under renovation. Empty. Private. Perfect. I gave them a 5-minute head start, then took the service elevator to the 15th floor. The renovation work had left the hallways dim and dusty, with plastic sheeting hanging from the ceiling and construction equipment scattered around. I could hear voices coming from one of the corner suites, a room that would have a perfect view of the city lights. "Can't keep doing this," Sophia was saying. "He's starting to ask questions." "What kind of questions?" Liam's voice was tense. "Nothing specific, but you saw how he acted downstairs. All that talk about structural failures and betrayal. Daniel's not stupid, just boring. Maybe we should cool it for a while." "No." Sophia's voice was sharp. "I'm not backing down now. I've put too much work into this. Do you know how hard it's been pretending to be the happy little wife while he drones on about his precious buildings?" "So what do you want to do?" "Accelerate the timeline. I've been talking to a lawyer about divorce proceedings. If I can prove he's been neglecting me emotionally, focusing too much on work, I can get the house and alimony." "What about his business?" "That's the beauty of it. Turner Design Studio is finally successful, but it's all in his name. I helped him build that client base, attended every boring dinner party, charmed every investor. I deserve half of everything." I pressed closer to the door, my phone recording every word. "And what about us?" Liam asked. "What about us? We'll be together, obviously. With his money and your money, we can go anywhere, do anything. No more pretending to care about load-bearing walls and concrete specifications." They both laughed, and the sound made me freeze. "God, you should have seen him tonight," Sophia continued. "So proud of himself for being clever with all that talk about weak points and collapse. If only he knew he was describing his own marriage." That's when I decided I'd heard enough. I pushed open the door and stepped into the room. They were standing by the window, Sophia in Liam's arms, both of them silhouetted against the city lights. They sprang apart when they saw me, but it was too late. "Hello, darling," I said calmly. "Having a nice view of the city?" Sophia's face went white. "Daniel, this isn't what? Isn't you and Liam planning to destroy my life and steal everything I've worked for?" I held up my phone. "Because that's exactly what it sounded like to me." Liam stepped forward, trying to look intimidating. "Now wait just a minute." "No, you wait." I turned to face him fully. "You're going to walk out of this room, get in your flashy red Porsche, and drive away, and you're never going to contact my wife again." "Or what?" I smiled. "Or I'll show your boss at Meridian Financial exactly what kind of man they have managing their clients' money. A man who seduces married women and plots to steal their husbands' assets. How do you think that will play with your investors?" His face went pale. "You can't prove anything." I held up my phone again. "Actually, I can. Amazing what people will say when they think no one's listening." Sophia found her voice. "Daniel, please, let's talk about this rationally." "Rationally?" I laughed, and it wasn't a pleasant sound. "You want to talk rationally about how you've been lying to me for months? About how you've been planning to steal my house, my business, my life? It's not like that. It's exactly like that. But here's the thing, Sophia. I'm an architect. I understand structural engineering, and I know exactly how to bring down a building." I turned and walked toward the door, then paused. "Oh, And Liam? You might want to check your car before you drive home. Construction sites can be dangerous places, lots of things that might damage expensive vehicles. I left them standing there and took the elevator back down to the gala. The party was winding down, guests saying their goodbyes, but I had one more stop to make. Maya was at the bar, looking slightly drunk and very pleased with herself. She'd been Sophia's best friend since college, her partner in crime, her enabler. Time to change that dynamic. "Maya," I said, sliding onto the bar stool next to her. "Enjoying the party?" "Daniel, where's Sophia? I haven't seen her in ages." "She's upstairs, with Liam, having a very interesting conversation about our marriage." Maya's smile faltered. "What do you mean?" I pulled out my phone and played a snippet of the recording. Maya's face went through several expressions: confusion, realization, and finally, fear. "Daniel, I can explain." "Can you? Can you explain how my wife's best friend helped her plan to destroy my life? How you laughed about it, called me pathetic? We never meant—" "Yes, you did. You meant every word. But here's what's going to happen now. You're going to go home, and you're going to think very carefully about whether you want to be associated with what's coming next." "What's coming next?" I stood up, straightening my jacket. "Justice, consequences, the kind of structural collapse that happens when you build something on a foundation of lies." I left Maya at the bar and walked out of the Grand Meridian into the cool night air. In the parking garage, I found Liam's red Porsche and spent a few minutes with the tire valve stems and a small tube of industrial adhesive I kept in my car for emergency repairs. Not enough to cause an accident, just enough to cause a very expensive and very embarrassing breakdown. By the time I got home, it was nearly midnight. Sophia's car wasn't in the driveway. I sat in my kitchen, surrounded by the custom cabinets and carefully planned sightlines I'd designed, and I started making a list. Because if there's one thing architects are good at, it's planning, and I had a lot of planning to do. The next morning, Sophia came home at 7:30, her hair messed up and her dress wrinkled. She found me in the kitchen, drinking coffee and reading the newspaper like nothing had happened. "We need to talk," she said. "Do we?" "Daniel, about last night." "What about it? Did you have a nice time at the gala?" She stared at me, trying to figure out my angle. "You know what I mean." "I know exactly what you mean. The question is, what are you going to do about it? What do you want?" I set down my coffee cup and looked at her, really looked at her. The woman I'd fallen in love with, married, built a life with, the woman who'd been planning to destroy me. "I want you to understand something, Sophia. I'm not the boring, predictable man you think I am. I'm an architect. I build things. But I also know how to tear them down." "Is that a threat?" "It's a promise. You wanted to play games with my life? Fine, let's play. But we're going to play by my rules now." She opened her mouth to respond, but her phone buzzed with a text message. She glanced at it and her face went white. "Problem?" I asked. "Liam's car broke down last night. All 4 tires went flat and something's wrong with his engine." "That's unfortunate. Expensive cars can be so unreliable." She stared at me with a mixture of fear and something that might have been respect. "What do you want, Daniel?" "I want you to sit down and listen very carefully, because I'm about to explain exactly how this is going to work." The next 2 weeks were a masterclass in precision demolition. I started with Maya because she was the weakest link in Sophia's support structure. A few carefully placed phone calls to mutual friends, a few strategic mentions of what I'd overheard at the gala, and suddenly Maya found herself on the receiving end of some very uncomfortable questions. "Did you know Sophia was cheating on Daniel? Were you helping her plan her divorce? Is it true you called him pathetic?" Maya tried to do damage control, but gossip spreads through social circles like water through a cracked foundation. Within a week, she was persona non grata at the country club, uninvited from book club, and suddenly finding herself eating lunch alone. She called me on a Thursday afternoon, crying, "Daniel, please, you have to make this stop. People won't talk to me. My own sister thinks I'm a terrible person." "Are you a terrible person, Maya?" I was just being a good friend to Sophia. By helping her destroy her marriage? We never meant for it to go this far." "Yes, you did. You meant for it to go exactly this far. You just didn't expect to face any consequences." There was a long pause. "What do you want?" "I want you to tell the truth, to everyone, about what Sophia's been doing, about what she's been planning, about how you helped her." "I can't do that. She's my best friend." "Was. She was your best friend, right up until she threw you under the bus to save herself." Another pause. "What do you mean?" "Check your email, Maya. Sophia sent a very interesting message to the Pinnacle Communications HR department this morning. Something about how you've been spreading malicious rumors about her marriage." I heard her typing, then a sharp intake of breath. She blamed me for everything." "Congratulations. You just learned what I learned 3 weeks ago. Sophia Turner only cares about Sophia Turner. The question now is, are you going to let her destroy you too?" Maya broke the next day. She called everyone she could think of and told them everything. About Liam, about the affair, about the divorce plans, about how Sophia had been laughing about me behind my back for months. The gossip network that had been slowly turning against Maya suddenly pivoted toward Sophia like a heat-seeking missile. Meanwhile, I was working on Liam. The tire and engine incident had cost him $3,000 and a very embarrassing call to AAA. But that was just the beginning. I'd done my research on Meridian Financial, and I knew exactly who to call. "Mr. Harrison, this is Daniel Turner, Turner Design Studio. We met at the Chamber of Commerce mixer last month." "Yes, that's right. The Morrison Complex project. I wanted to talk to you about one of your employees, Liam Becker." Robert Harrison was Meridian Financial's managing partner, a old-school businessman who valued integrity above everything else. The kind of man who would be very interested to know that one of his investment managers was involved in what amounted to a conspiracy to defraud a client's husband. "I have some information that might concern you about Mr. Becker's professional conduct." I didn't lie. I didn't exaggerate. I simply presented the facts. Liam was having an affair with a married woman and had been recorded discussing plans to help her steal her husband's assets through fraudulent divorce proceedings. Harrison thanked me for the information and assured me it would be handled appropriately. Liam was suspended pending investigation by Friday. But the real masterstroke was what I did to Sophia's professional reputation. Pinnacle Communications was a mid-sized marketing firm that prided itself on family values and community involvement. Their biggest clients were local businesses, many of whom I knew through my architectural work. A few casual conversations, a few strategic mentions of Sophia's personal problems, and suddenly her clients were asking to be reassigned to other account managers. "Nothing personal," I told Jim Morrison when he called to ask about the rumors. "But Sophia's been having some issues lately. Might affect her focus on your account." "What kind of issues?" "The kind that involve betraying people who trust her." By the end of the second week, Sophia's professional world was collapsing around her. 3 major clients had requested new account managers. Her boss was asking uncomfortable questions about her personal conduct affecting professional relationships. And Maya's truth-telling campaign had reached the ears of several Pinnacle employees. She confronted me on a Saturday morning, finding me in my home office working on the Morrison plans. "You're destroying my life," she said. "I'm not destroying anything. I'm just removing the supports that were holding up a structure built on lies." "This is insane. All of this over what? A stupid affair?" I looked up from my drawings. "A stupid affair? Is that what you call 3 months of planning to steal everything I've worked for?" "I wasn't going to steal anything. I just wanted my fair share." "Your fair share of what? The business I built? The house I designed? The the clients I cultivated. I helped with all of that. You attended dinner parties. That's not the same thing as building a career. She slammed her hand on my desk, scattering papers. You can't do this to me. I'll fight back. With what? Your reputation is shot. Your best friend won't speak to you. Your lover is unemployed, and your boss is looking for a reason to fire you. What exactly are you going to fight with? I'll tell people what you did, how you manipulated everyone, spread rumors. I didn't spread rumors. I told the truth. There's a difference. She stared at me, and for the first time since this whole thing started, I saw genuine fear in her eyes. What do you want, Daniel? What will it take to make this stop? I set down my pencil and looked at her carefully. I want you to understand that actions have consequences. I want you to know what it feels like to have everything you care about threatened by someone you trusted. Okay, fine. I understand. I'm sorry. Can we move on now? Move on? I laughed. Sophia, we haven't even gotten to the good part yet. What's that supposed to mean? I pulled out my phone and showed her a calendar entry for the following Friday. The Morrison Complex groundbreaking ceremony. 500 guests, including every major business leader in the city. The mayor will be there. The press will be there. And I'm giving a speech about the importance of strong foundations. Her face went pale. Daniel, don't. Don't what? Don't talk about how structures fail when their foundations are compromised? Don't discuss what happens when load-bearing elements can't be trusted? Please, I'm begging you. You should have thought about that before you decided to tear down my life. I turned back to my drawings, dismissing her. After a moment, I heard her leave. But I wasn't done, not even close. The Morrison Complex groundbreaking was scheduled for Friday at 2 p.m., with a reception afterward at the Grand Meridian, the same hotel where I'd caught Sophia and Liam 3 weeks earlier. The irony was too perfect to resist. I spent the week leading up to the ceremony putting the final pieces in place. Phone calls to reporters, invitations to specific guests, careful coordination with Alex to ensure everything would be documented. Boss, are you sure about this? Alex asked on Thursday afternoon. We were in my office, going over the final details. Once you do this, there's no going back. There was no going back the moment she decided to betray me. But this is going to destroy her completely. Good. Alex studied my face. You're not the same person you were a month ago. No, I'm not. A month ago, I was naive enough to believe that people meant what they said, that marriage vows actually meant something, that the woman I loved wouldn't plot to steal everything I'd worked for. And now? Now I understand that sometimes you have to tear down the old structure completely before you can build something new. Friday morning, Sophia tried one last time to stop me. She came into my office wearing a black dress that made her look like she was attending a funeral. Maybe she was. Daniel, I know you're planning something for today. Don't do this. Do what? Whatever you're planning, I know you. You're going to try to humiliate me in front of everyone. I don't need to try. You've already done that yourself. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. Isn't that enough? I looked at her standing there, beautiful and desperate, and for a moment I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Tell me something, Sophia. If I hadn't caught you that night, if I hadn't overheard your plans, how long would you have kept lying to me? She didn't answer. Would you have waited until after the Morrison project was complete? Until my business was more valuable? Would you have filed for divorce on our 10th anniversary just for the poetic justice? Daniel, answer me. She looked away. I don't know. Yes, you do. You would have waited until you could take everything. The house, the business, everything I've built. You would have destroyed me completely and never looked back. That's not true. It's exactly true. The only thing you're sorry about is getting caught. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the construction site where my building was taking shape. You know what the difference is between you and me, Sophia? When I build something, I build it to last. I think about every detail, every stress point, every possible failure mode. I create something that can withstand whatever life throws at it. What's your point? My point is that you built our marriage like a house of cards. Pretty to look at, but no foundation, no structural integrity. The first strong wind that came along was going to knock it down. So this is your revenge? Destroying my reputation? My career? I turned back to face her. This isn't revenge. This is consequences. There's a difference. She left without another word. The groundbreaking ceremony was perfect. Clear skies, light breeze, 500 guests including the mayor, city council members, business leaders, and reporters from 3 newspapers and 2 TV stations. The Morrison Complex construction site had been cleaned up and decorated with banners and flags. I stood at the podium, looking out at the crowd, and I could see Sophia near the back with several colleagues from Pinnacle Communications. She looked nervous, checking her phone constantly, probably hoping for some last-minute reprieve. There wouldn't be one. Ladies and gentlemen, I began, thank you for joining us today for this historic groundbreaking. The Morrison Complex represents more than just another building in our city's skyline. It represents the importance of strong foundations, careful planning, and structural integrity. Polite applause. I saw Sophia shift uncomfortably. As an architect, I've learned that the most beautiful building in the world is worthless if its foundation is compromised, if the load-bearing elements can't be trusted, if the very structure that's supposed to support everything else is built on deception. A few people in the crowd were starting to pay closer attention. This wasn't the usual generic groundbreaking speech. Over the past month, I've had occasion to think deeply about foundations, about what happens when you discover that something you thought was solid, something you trusted completely, is actually hollow inside. I could see reporters taking notes now. Sophia had gone pale. In architecture, we have a term for this: catastrophic structural failure. It's what happens when the hidden weaknesses in a building finally give way. The collapse isn't sudden. It's been building for months, maybe years. Small compromises in integrity, tiny fractures in the foundation, little betrayals of the original design. The crowd was silent now. Everyone could sense that this wasn't about buildings anymore. But here's the thing about catastrophic failure. It's not always a tragedy. Sometimes it's an opportunity. Sometimes you have to tear down the old structure completely before you can build something better. I paused, looking directly at Sophia. Sometimes the collapse is exactly what needed to happen. That's when I nodded to Alex, who was standing near the media section with a tablet computer. Before we break ground on this new project, I continued, I think it's important to acknowledge the people who helped make it possible, the clients who trusted me with their vision, the engineers who solved impossible problems, the contractors who will turn drawings into reality. Alex started moving through the crowd, showing his tablet screen to reporters and guests. And I think it's equally important to acknowledge the people who tried to undermine that trust, who built their own plans on a foundation of deception and betrayal. The tablet contained everything: screenshots of Sophia's emails and text messages, audio recordings from the hotel room, a timeline showing 3 months of lies and manipulation, documentation of her plans to steal my business and assets. I watched as the information spread through the crowd like wildfire. Reporters were making phone calls. Business leaders were whispering to each other. Sophia's colleagues from Pinnacle were staring at her with expressions of shock and disgust. The Morrison Complex will stand for decades, I said, raising my voice over the growing murmur of conversation. It will stand because it's built on solid ground with honest materials, by people who honor their commitments. It will stand because every element of its structure can be trusted. Sophia was pushing through the crowd now, trying to reach the exit, but reporters were intercepting her, asking questions, demanding comments. Unlike some structures in our community, I concluded, which are about to experience their own catastrophic failure. I stepped down from the podium and picked up the ceremonial golden shovel. The official groundbreaking went on as planned, but most of the crowd was more interested in the drama unfolding around Sophia Turner, who was trying to explain to a TV reporter why her husband had just exposed her affair and divorce plans to 500 people. The reception afterward was even better. I stood near the bar, accepting congratulations on the project and condolences on my marriage, watching as Sophia's world collapsed in real time. Maya arrived halfway through the reception, having heard about the speech on social media. She found Sophia in the ladies' room, and their screaming match was audible through the door. "You told me he was harmless," Maya shouted. "You said he was too boring to fight back." "How was I supposed to know he'd do something like this?" "Because you're married to him. You should have known what kind of man he really is." Liam showed up around 4 o'clock, still unemployed and looking desperate. He tried to approach me at the bar, probably to threaten me or beg me to call off the dogs. I saw him coming and smiled. "Liam, so good to see you. How's the job search going?" "You son of a bitch," he said quietly. "You destroyed my career." "I didn't destroy anything. I just provided some information to your boss about your professional conduct. What he did with that information was his choice." "This isn't over." "Actually, it is. You're unemployed, your reputation is shot, and every finance firm in the city knows what kind of man you are. I'd suggest you start looking for work in another field. Maybe something that doesn't require client trust." He started to say something else, but 2 of my contractor friends had moved up behind me, and Liam decided discretion was the better part of valor. By 6 o'clock, the reception was winding down, and Sophia was nowhere to be seen. She'd left around 5, after the 3rd reporter had cornered her for a comment about her husband's explosive allegations. I was standing on the hotel balcony, looking out at the city skyline, when Alex joined me. "So," he said, "how does it feel?" "How does what feel?" "Getting your revenge, destroying the people who tried to destroy you." I thought about it for a moment. It doesn't feel like revenge. It feels like justice. Is there a difference? Revenge is emotional. Justice is structural. Revenge is about making someone pay. Justice is about restoring balance. And do you feel balanced now? I looked out at the lights of the city, at the construction cranes and half-built buildings, at the skyline I'd helped shape over the past 15 years. I feel like I can start building again. Monday morning brought the consequences I'd been waiting for. Sophia was fired from Pinnacle Communications. The official reason was conduct detrimental to the company's reputation and client relationships, but everyone knew the real reason. 3 major clients had already requested that their accounts be transferred to other firms, and the local business community was buzzing with gossip about the architect's wife who'd tried to steal everything. Maya called me around 10 a.m., sobbing. "Daniel, please. You have to help me. Nobody will talk to me. My husband is threatening divorce. My own mother won't return my calls." "What do you want me to do about it?" "Tell people it wasn't my fault, that I was just caught in the middle." "Were you caught in the middle, Maya? Or were you an active participant in planning to destroy my life?" I was just being a good friend." To Sophia. "What about being a decent human being to me?" She hung up without answering. Liam was having his own problems. Word of his suspension and the reasons behind it had spread through the finance community like wildfire. 3 other firms had already passed on his resume, and his landlord had started eviction proceedings after Liam missed his rent payment. He showed up at my office Tuesday afternoon, looking desperate and dangerous. "You've destroyed my life," he said, pushing past Alex into my private office. "Have I? Or did you destroy it yourself when you decided to seduce a married woman and plot to steal her husband's assets?" "That's not what happened." I pulled out my phone and played a snippet of the hotel room recording. His voice, clear as day. "With his money and your money, we can go anywhere, do anything." Sounds like theft to me, I said. Sounds like conspiracy to commit fraud. You can't prove anything in court. I don't need to prove anything in court. I just need to prove it in the court of public opinion. And I think I've done that pretty effectively. He stood there for a moment, fists clenched, probably calculating whether he could get away with hitting me. Alex stepped closer, and Liam seemed to remember that assaulting someone in their own office would only make his problems worse. "This isn't over," he said. "Yes, it is. You just don't know it yet." But the real satisfaction came Wednesday evening, when Sophia showed up at the house, our house, the one I'd designed and built and that she'd planned to steal from me. She looked terrible. Her hair was unwashed, her clothes wrinkled, her makeup smeared. The confident, manipulative woman who'd been planning my destruction had been replaced by someone broken and desperate. "Can I come in?" she asked. "It's still your house, for now." We sat in the living room, surrounded by furniture we'd picked out together, artwork we'd bought on vacations, the accumulated debris of 8 years of marriage. "I need you to call them off," she said. "Call who off?" "The reporters, the gossips, everyone who's spreading stories about me." "I'm not controlling anyone, Sophia. I just told the truth. What people do with that information is up to them." "You're destroying me." "I'm not destroying anything. I'm just removing the supports that were holding up a structure built on lies." She started crying then, real tears, not the manipulative kind she'd used during arguments in the past. "I'm sorry," she sobbed. "I'm so sorry. I never meant for it to go this far." "Yes, you did. You meant for it to go exactly this far. You just thought you'd be the one holding the demolition charges." "What do you want? What will it take to make this stop?" I looked at this woman I'd once loved, this woman who'd shared my bed and my dreams and my trust, and I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, no regret, just a kind of cold satisfaction, like an architect surveying a successful, controlled demolition. "I want you to understand that actions have consequences. I want you to know what it feels like to have your life torn apart by someone you trusted. I want you to experience the same fear and helplessness you were planning to inflict on me." "Okay, I understand. I get it. Can we move on now?" "Move on?" I laughed. "Sophia, this is moving on. This is what moving on looks like." "What do you mean?" I pulled out a manila folder and set it on the coffee table between us. "Divorce papers. I'm filing for dissolution of marriage on grounds of adultery and fraud. I'm asking for the house, my business assets, and damages for your attempt to defraud me." She stared at the papers like they were a snake. "Daniel, please." "You're going to sign them, tonight. And then, you're going to pack your things and leave." "Where am I supposed to go? I don't have a job. I don't have any money." "That's not my problem anymore. You can't just throw me out on the street." "I'm not throwing you anywhere. I'm simply declining to continue supporting someone who was planning to destroy me." She picked up the papers with shaking hands, flipping through pages of legal language that basically said she was getting nothing. "This isn't fair." "Fair." I stood up, looking down at her. "You want to talk about fair? Was it fair when you spent 3 months planning to steal everything I'd worked for? Was it fair when you laughed about how pathetic I was? Was it fair when you called me boring and predictable while you were sleeping with another man in my bed?" She flinched at the profanity. I never swore. The boring, predictable Daniel Turner never raised his voice or used harsh language. "Sign the papers, Sophia. And if I don't, then I release everything, every text message, every email, every recording. I give it all to the newspapers, the TV stations, the internet. I make sure that everyone in this city knows exactly what kind of person you are." "You wouldn't." "Try me." She signed the papers. Thursday morning, I watched from my office window as Sophia loaded her belongings into a rented U-Haul truck. She was moving in with her sister in another state, starting over with nothing but the clothes in her suitcase and the knowledge that she'd gambled everything on a man who turned out to be smarter than she'd thought. Maya was getting divorced. Her husband had decided that being married to someone who helped orchestrate marital betrayals was bad for his own reputation. She was looking for work in retail, since no one in the professional community would hire her. Liam had finally found a job, selling insurance in a strip mall office 40 miles outside the city. His salary was about a quarter of what he'd been making at Meridian Financial, and he was driving a 10-year-old Honda since he couldn't make the payments on the Porsche. And me? I was standing in my office, looking out at the Morrison Complex construction site, watching my building rise from the ground like a concrete and steel monument to the power of strong foundations and structural integrity. Alex knocked on my door. "Boss, the reporter from the Herald is here for your interview." The interview was about the Morrison Complex, about my architectural vision, about the future of downtown development. But I knew she'd also ask about the divorce, about the scandal, about how I'd managed to turn the tables so completely on the people who'd tried to destroy me. "Send her in," I said. As I straightened my tie and prepared to tell my story one more time, I thought about the difference between revenge and justice, between destruction and demolition, between tearing something down in anger and clearing the ground for something better. Sophia had been right about one thing. I was an architect. I built things that lasted. But she'd been wrong about everything else. I wasn't boring or predictable or weak. I was patient. I was methodical. I was someone who understood that the most devastating collapses happen not through explosive force, but through the careful removal of key structural supports. I was someone who knew how to build, and when necessary, I was someone who knew how to tear down. The reporter walked in, notebook ready, and I smiled. "So," she said, "tell me about your blueprint for success." I looked out the window one more time at my rising building, at the city I'd helped shape, at the life I was rebuilding from the ground up. "It's all about the foundation," I said. "Everything else is just details." 6 months later, the Morrison Complex was complete, Sophia was working as a waitress in another state, and I was designing my next project. A house for myself, built on ground that had been cleared of all the old structures, all the compromised foundations, all the load-bearing lies. Sometimes you have to tear everything down before you can build something that will last. Sometimes the demolition is the most important part of the construction process. And sometimes the best revenge is simply building a better life on the ruins of the one that someone else tried to destroy.